Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to Stay22 for having me. I'm gonna vamp while I press all my buttons to present. Hey, so I'm Nina, as Ryan said, and I have critical ADHD, so I'm not gonna check questions as I go because I will get very distracted and I want y'all to have my full attention focused. But at the end, I will be answering questions, so just drop all of them in the chat. So today we are going to talk about mastering trending topics for massive traffic. This is one of my favorite I don't like to use the word hacks, but it's kind of an SEO hack that's really great whether you're new or an expert in any sort of blogging areas. It is such a good way to really capitalize on what's happening in our industries. So my name is Nina. You're going to see this little boy pop up throughout all these slides. This is my dog, Theo. I don't make good slides. I'm not a visual person, so I'm bribing you to pay attention by showing you cute photos of my dog. And because I need to have the tax write-off for the number of photo shoots I take him on. So my name is Nina. I'm the founder of SheKnowsSEO.co. You can find all of my articles there on SEO, blogging, and AI. I'm Canadian, so you're going to hear some A's and some sorries. My story is very heavy because I spent a lot of time in Nova Scotia. You'll see my dog, Theo. He is a service dog. And I am obsessed with SEO, AI, and helping bloggers like you make money. I was a law clerk for a long time. I hated it. It was the worst job ever. Don't recommend. And when I was working there, I really worried that my whole life would be that. Now my whole life is getting to teach really fun sessions like this, getting to travel, and I can do the majority of that because of traffic from Google. So I actually started a blog back pre-pandemic and then didn't really take it seriously until the pandemic. I think it was January 2021, I first heard the term SEO. I'd never heard it before. I was like, what is that? I had no idea. I started kind of picking it up. And then in December 2021, I gave myself an ultimatum. I said, okay, by the end of 2022, you need to be making money from your blog or you've got to go back to law school and become a lawyer. Because long story short, I bailed on it because I had a bad cookie and I decided I didn't want to do it because I liked the cookie more than law school. So with that challenge, I actually managed to grow my blog to Mediavine in 6 months. And 13 months after that December, I had my first $30,000 month completely passively from my travel blog. And that is not including any SEO income. I'm always very careful to keep those separate. So I'll move my little head here so you guys can see. So earlier this year, I was using my trending topic formula again. I use this pretty regularly, at least once every quarter. And one of my articles really kicked off. This article made about $1,000 in a couple days, which is wild. It got 26,000 page views in 30 days. This was not a properly SEO'd article. I broke every rule there is. Oops, there we go. So this is the specific article I'm referring to. Back in May, we had the Google algorithm leak, and I went through the entire document, which was incredibly boring. I do not recommend it. And I want to show you the stats here so that you can see exactly how much I made and which article it was. So in that month, I had 26,780 page views on this specific post. The majority of those came straight from Google and not Google Discover. I do not understand Google Discover. It is a beast unto itself. On Raptive, this made $821.39 in pure ad revenue, but it also made me more money because people click through to other posts on the site. I use a free tool called Microsoft Clarity so I could track that. I also had a couple affiliate links that I slipped in there, and I got a ton of people on my newsletter. And because of all my tracking, I was able to figure out that I said I made $1,000. I actually ended up making a few $1,000s from this post after some sales. And it's not a fluke. That is not the only time I've done it. Again, I do this pretty regularly and I've done it across different niches. So this is the same site. This is She Knows SEO, but I did it again in September/October. It was like the last day kind of between the two, where I wrote an article about Notebook LM, which is an AI tool. But I've also done this for a pet site. I've done this for multiple travel sites. I've done this for a construction site. I did it for my sister's architecture website. So this can be done in any niche. I'm just sharing traffic stats of the SEO site because that's the only one I share publicly. So you're probably like, Nina, where is this coming from? What's happening? Is it magic? How do I get this? And I promise it's not. It's just my trending topic formula, which is very easy to replicate. And I'm going to teach you exactly how today. So we're going to go through these 7 steps together, and then we're actually going to go and do a demo of this based on a trending topic that's happening right now. I don't know if anyone else is like dog obsessed like I am, but there's actually the first dog travel cruise out. And so it has been going viral. If you have anything dog related or cruise related, we're going to give you some ideas today. So we're going to go through these 7 steps in order, but don't worry, you'll be able to watch the slide back, or pardon me, the replay back, and then go through this yourself later as well. So I want to give some caveats first. This is not magic, and so that means there are no guarantees. Trending topics will have some flops. I've written some of these that did not take off. So we always want to make sure that when we're doing this, we're not being clickbait. We're not just like writing on something that makes no sense for our audience. We want to stick to relevant content for your niche. So it has to be something that would be valuable to your audience and make sense on your website, even if it didn't go viral. And then quality is key. So this isn't like, I know a big thing right now is like Facebook page traffic, where you can like kind of slap up a 250 word post and like hope that people click over to it. I don't really understand how that works. So I know that was flippant. For anyone doing it, I know it's more intensive than that. But here, quality is key. You still need to have a really quality article for this to work. So step 1, we are going to find some trending topics. But how do we do that? The first thing we need is a clearly defined niche. We need to know what kind of parameters we're working within. So with She Knows SEO, that's going to be SEO, AI, and blogging. Those are my 3 content silos. So I'm going to focus on like SEO in that perspective. I'm not going to do e-commerce SEO. I'm not going to do local SEO because they are not my specialties. So for our example, let's say we run a dog travel site that specializes in big dogs. So with that, I'm not going to talk about articles that are like for little dogs because it doesn't matter to my audience. That's why we need the specificity. And then we need to live in our niche. What does that mean? It essentially just means actually care about it and be keeping up with the trends that are happening in your niche. This does not make you a news correspondent. We are not trying to break news here. That's not our goal. We are reporting back on trending topics that other journalists have already broken in our niche. So here are all the places that I find trending topics. Feel free to screenshot this. I know it's a very cute photo of Theo as well. So first we have Google Trends. Google Trends is a free tool. Key Search also like has it running through Key Search. If you go to Key Search organic keywords, it's the last thing on the dropdown. I think it's called Trends, but you can filter it there as well. But with Google Trends, that's actually the only place on Google where you can find kind of to-the-minute search results for different terms. The traffic is very much an estimate though. And so it's just going to show you how search volume has like massively changed over certain periods. So for example, when Taylor Swift came to Toronto, searches for everything Taylor Swift related went crazy high. So it would show that on those graphs. The next thing is Twitter or Threads or Blue Sky, whatever version you're on. And yes, I will always call it Twitter. X is a dumb name. So these are just places where people are immediately posting things that are like, hey, this thing happened. You can also usually follow hashtags there, which makes it very easy to, again, live in the niche, have stuff come directly to you. I also use Apple News. So on my phone, I get alerts based on other articles I've been interested in the past. Super easy. Literally, the news is coming to you. You can also sign up for mailing lists for different press releases. I'll be honest, my inbox scares me. So like, I'm not going to do that personally. But I know many people who do, and it is a really good way to get breaking news right in your inbox, like maybe a new hotel opening. Most of them have email lists that they're like so happy for you to be on. We can also have other industry relevant news sources. So even like the Stay22 newsletter, I get that one. It's one of the few I actually open, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that for this webinar. But in it, there's always stuff about like things happening in our industry and things that are going on. As someone who teaches about SEO and blogging for bloggers, that's really important to me to be able to like learn about things that maybe aren't in my specific sphere. We also have TikTok. I'm obsessed with TikTok. So for me, it's a great spot. Instagram, if you like Instagram better. But basically, again, just people talking about something immediately happening. There's a tool called Exploding Topics as well. It is free for their emails. They have a paid tier. I don't pay for it, so it's up to you. But you can get them emailed to you and it'll be like, oh, okay, these 4 AI tools are taking off. Or this, I don't know, dog biscuit brand is taking off. It's a really helpful way to see kind of trends as they're happening. And lastly, I actually make my own kind of trending topic areas by making my own communities. So for me, that's Facebook groups. For you, that could be somewhere else. But basically, people bring news to me. It's really cool because people will be like, hey, Nina, did you see this? I'm like, nope, that's good to know. Let's go do some information on it. Now, next, we need to do our own research and analysis. So we do not want to just parrot what other people are saying. This is not a copy and paste situation. This is not a plagiarism situation. Please don't ever plagiarize. It just doesn't make any sense. But we want to make sure that for anyone reading our article, that this has something unique to say. It needs to add something to the conversation that no one else has or that other people have in like a weird way. So with that Google algorithm leak document, every other article at the time I wrote mine, they were all just talking about like it leaked. Okay, and like I don't think any of us really cared about the specific things it said in it to like just know all the 14,000 attributes it had. We cared about what that meant for us. And that's literally the reason that my article, it even outranked the people who'd had the leak. And people tried to say that that's because it was like Google suppressing them. It wasn't. If Google was suppressing them, none of us would have ranked for that. They would have gotten rid of it. They've done it before. It was because the two of them that leaked it both had an article that said the same thing. So it technically was duplicate content. Mine went a step further. And I actually linked back to them because I was trying to get them ahead of me because I was like, you guys deserve to be there more than I do. So that just means we need to do our own research and analysis. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like looking into cruise emissions for the example that we're going to do later, or that you're like, I don't know, becoming a dog behavioral scientist. You just have to like connect this to your audience. The basic way to do this is, okay, with this information, why does it matter to my audience? Like, why should they care? And then coming up with the research or analysis to connect those two and to really give them answers for the why they should care or what they should do about this thing. If you are not an expert on any of those things, then go find other people. Do interviews, ask people how they feel about this. For the dog cruise example we're going to talk about, have you been on a cruise with your dog? What was it like? Maybe if you've never been on a cruise, just talk to people who have been on cruises. Like that would be helpful. Compare and contrast stats. There's like earlier this year, Bark Air launched, and there's Canine Jets, I think it's called, and both are private airlines. You could have like when that second one launched, compared the cost breakdown between the two to be like, okay, if you're flying from, I think they both do New York to London, but I don't actually remember. It's kind of irrelevant. Let's just say New York to London. Okay, well, which one would actually be less expensive to take, or which one would be the better experience for your specific dog? Well, you could just go and find that information on their websites, but then you're analyzing it. You're adding a step further. Or you can ask experts. So maybe I would speak to a vet to be like, hey, what's going to happen when you have 40 dogs aboard a cruise ship? Is this a bad idea? And then I always, always, always recommend reading the original. Don't just read summaries of it. Don't just read like little syndications of it. Read the original yourself. It is so important because other articles might be biased or they might misquote. I see this a lot in journalism, back where like the first article says something, the second person misquotes it, everyone else verbatim copies that second one, and then things just spiral. So now we want to add our something new. We want to ask ourselves, so what? Why does this information matter to our audience? And that doesn't always just mean we need to add like physically new content. This was kind of a mistake that happened with SEO back in the day as well, with skyscraper content, it was called. Everyone thought you needed a skyscraper that was taller, so it had like one more thing on the list, it had more words. But actually, what you needed was a skyscraper that was different. So the example I always give there is like, if you were working in an office and you had to choose between two buildings, they're exactly the same number of floors, like maybe one's gold, one's silver. But on inside of building number one, they have like free massages, they have free coffee in the morning, they're like gonna take your lunch order, they will do your dry cleaning for you. You're probably gonna like them a lot better, right? Because the second one doesn't do any of that. Same thing here. We need to add value to our article so that it matters to our audience. So sometimes that just means phrasing it differently. SEO is so often said in like this really tech bro way, I guess I would call it. Doesn't need to be. You want to just like present it in a way that your audience can understand, digest, and understand why it matters. So when we're talking about like cruise emissions or something, we could definitely break that down in a way that's not super techy and ridiculous for our audience. And then we want to relate it to their main pain points. So we're going to go even a step further. This is the same thing you want to do with affiliate articles, where you're not just like, okay, this hotel has 3 bedrooms and it has like 2 sinks in the bathroom and it has a tub. Okay, why? Don't just sell the features, sell the benefits. Same thing here. We're basically going to sell the benefits of our information to our audience for how this helps them like bigger picture with all of their needs. So here are some examples of that. Text speak in plain English, showing action steps that they could like take after they hear this, maybe how to book the dog cruise, tying in your personal experience. So for me, the only cruise I've ever been on, sick as a dog. So I could relate it that way and be like, well, you might want to travel with your dog. If like me, you get incredibly seasick, don't do this. Not a good idea. You could bring in a new discussion point others haven't brought up. Back in May, again, there was the Google I/O keynote. They introduced Notebook LM for the first time. And I was one of the first people to say, like, hey, that audio feature is going to come for podcasters. And now we're seeing that happen. And so being able to like connect things to the larger story is really important. You want to do long-term analysis, like do a case study over a few months, talk about how this relates to like your long-term experience. Or literally what I just did to you right there, predicted the future. Talking about that podcast where I was like, hey, this tool might change the podcasting landscape. That's a really great way to try and be like, okay, crystal ball, what's this going to mean for us down the line? And now that we have all of that, we actually have to write the article. And don't worry, the article's not going to be something like 5 bajillion words long, but it can't be a BuzzFeed article. It can't be 200 words. It can't just be like, which onion are you? Because I don't know, we don't really need that. I don't think it's relevant to your audience. We want to write a proper, helpful article that is going to show someone that this is what they get when they follow your brand. So we don't just want this to be a one and done. That was very old school SEO, like bring people in and then kind of who cares what happens to them. We want someone coming over who's going to become our best friend, who's going to become a diehard fan. Are they all going to become that? No. But there's no point going viral for something that is not relevant to your people or that doesn't indicate what they're going to get when they stick around. If I went viral for like, I don't know, why I hate AI, it'd be very weird that then the rest of my site is very AI focused. Like that wouldn't be good for people. So we want to make sure that we are really sticking with our usual brand voice, our brand values, and we give them a good sample of like what they're going to get if they keep coming back. So here are some like elements of a quality article. First, you need to have an introduction. I know everyone like hates writing intros. They're so important. An intro, and especially the first 1,000 words, those are the things that Google pays attention to the most. So in your intro, please, please, please include your expertise. Why should someone listen to you? Why are you an authority on this topic? If they don't know, they're probably not going to keep listening. Also, get to the freaking point, like immediately tell them like, okay, here's what this is about. Here's how it relates to you. So there's a really good quote that I learned from Ruthie Starrett, who's an Instagrammer. She basically said like people online are used to overhearing. They're used to eavesdropping, but you should be speaking directly to your target audience. So it's okay if I'm doing this like big dog travel site, if I'm talking about dog travel generally, but I'm definitely going to keep mentioning things that are very specific to having a big dog because it's a very different form of travel. And I would know my golden retriever is massive, so I got to deal with him. Now, the article should typically be over 1,000 word long. I think I had 2 that were 800 words that were okay, that like still kicked off, but typically 1,000 words is best because you still need to like do your analysis, do your reporting, and then also connect it to your audience. So it's hard to do that in under 1,000 words. You also want to tell them like why this matters and what to do, so what to take action with, and then have a conclusion. So you want to make sure that you are ending with a relevant next step. Conclusions should not just restate what you said in the article and be like, okay, as you just heard, here are the like main things. Okay, well, why am I bothering to read that then? Instead, have a next step. What are they going to do with this information? Connect it to a larger niche idea. So in this case, maybe this cruise is like making dog travel more accessible. And like there are four more companies that like could be starting these soon. Or maybe there's like, here's some other ways to travel with your dog if this doesn't make sense for you. So you can zoom out without like just zooming out within just the article. And step five, we want to turn those visitors into fans. So this work does not just stop when this article goes up. We want these people to come and be our besties. That's the goal. So how do we do that? In the article, have an email list opt-in. I really recommend having this for every article anyway, but make sure that the opt-in is relevant to this post. So if in this dog cruise post, I have an article or like a checklist, like a packing checklist for Spain. Well, the cruise isn't going to Spain. It has nothing to do with dogs and it has nothing to do with cruises. So why is that my freebie? It doesn't make sense. We want to make sure it's relevant to this silo. So it could be anything cruise, dog, or even I think it's leaving from Tampa, so maybe like Florida related. But we want to make sure it is relevant to these people coming to this post. Then you can also have them ask questions in a community. This is kind of like my secret weapon, I guess, is I love Facebook groups. I know they're like maybe a bit more old school, but they really work. And so what I'll say is like, rather than commenting on this post, come like ask your questions about this in my community and I'll give you an in-depth answer. And now they've joined this community, so they'll hang out more. You can also create a hashtag for social media. You could promote a low ticket offer or low ticket product. Typically something under 20 bucks is going to be the easiest thing. And again, make sure it's relevant. If I'm trying to sell like, I don't know, here's, I'm trying to think of anything not cruise related. Immediately I'm blanking, but let's say like, here's a solo travel guide. Well, is that really relevant to the dog cruise? Probably not. I'd probably do better with like a $5 like tasks I trained my dog in so he's like a chill traveler. I would definitely have bought that when I first started traveling with my dog. Then you want to add internal links so you're sending them on a journey to the rest of your site. We want to make sure that they're noticing like, hey, we got all this great stuff for you. Keep coming back. Go read something else. And that's again where like connecting these ideas to something relevant on your site helps. Because if you're writing this and it has no relation to your content, it's going to be hard to do this. Then you can also like link to a live event or webinar. So let's say you're going to do a Q&A about this cruise, or maybe do like a free live YouTube video or something like that, or a Zoom where they can come and learn more about something. This is a really great way to be like, hey, come get to know me. And you guys all know me better now, especially like with all the photos of my dog. He is the majority of my personality, I would say. And so this helps you understand who I am as a person and know that I'm not just some random, like, I don't know, AI writing all my posts. We want to make sure that people like want to connect with you. And then we want to share it everywhere. So back to that Google algo leak post, we actually learned in the algorithm leak that Google cares about clicks from other places. So newsletter, social media, any direct traffic, all of those are important for Google understanding if this post matters to people. So it's a good idea to have at least one social channel or a newsletter where people are going to be able to click through to this post. So I always say Google's kind of a popular girl. Basically, if other people care about you, then Google will definitely care about you. It's one of the reasons why like it tends to be that if you have a strong secondary traffic channel, you're a bit safer from algorithm updates. Not perfectly, but a bit safer. So we want to be able to get clicks from these other channels, and that just means we need to share this a little bit. So on screen right now is a QR code. You can also go onto my site and search the word Zapier, Zapier. But that's my automation that I actually use that will auto take any post I publish, pop it through. It's the OpenAI API. It's like a couple cents each time. And then it writes custom posts for each social media and will auto post them for you. So where are some places to share? And sorry, I promoted that. It's free, but it's because I'm like, I get that we're busy. So that's my way that I do it when I'm too busy to do it myself. But we can otherwise post manually to our group, email our list, go on Instagram. You can use ManyChat. I actually used that for that algo leak one. I made like an Instagram post. Again, I'm not an Instagram girly, so I was surprised I figured this out at all. And I was like, okay, comment algo or leak or something, and I'll DM you the link to the article. Worked amazingly. I got like 200 people and I don't have a big Instagram. So it does help. Then we have TikTok, Twitter, Threads, Pinterest, or your Facebook page. So I told you here, I shared mine to my newsletter, my group, and then to my stories. And then we want to repurpose that content. So what does that mean? It basically means that trends are trendy everywhere. So we don't just want to do it in one spot. We want to make sure that we're repurposing this into other places. So I actually took that article and I did a YouTube video about it. So it was like a live that I did. So again, kind of live webinar style, people could ask questions, but I went through in even more detail and I kind of took a slightly different angle where I went through like each individual thing and how to apply it for the top 10. And so that was able to get me 1,200 views like in 5 days, which like my YouTube is not that good. Especially at that time, it was not getting that regularly. But you can also do this with a podcast, with a live webinar, reels for socials, whatever you want, or make this a series. A lot of people did that with the algo leak where it was like post 1, then post 2, then post 3 as new stuff came out. Don't be afraid to keep juicing that lime. We want to make sure that we are like making the most out of this situation. Okay, now we're going to do a live demo. Let me just minimize things. Perfect. So, oops. It's not letting me full screen. There we go. This is an example of how I found out about the cruise. So I was in a Facebook group. This one's called Traveling with Your Dogs, I think. And basically, I just got this showing up on my Facebook homepage. So when I say I live in the niche, literally, I love traveling with my dog. So this just popped up to me. And that meant I was like, hey, that probably matters. Let's go take a look at that. So here we have a People article about it. We also have a US Today article about it. And so I started noticing a lot of newspapers were starting to report on this. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is something that matters. Number one, I also was like, as someone who knows it's hard to travel with a dog, that's really important to know that this exists. But let's say nothing had come up. If I had no idea, what I could do instead is go to Google Trends. I always recommend setting it to US. I know for those of us who aren't American, it's annoying, but honestly, the US one has a better interface, and I don't really know why. And so here, I would search, oops, let my keyboard turn back on. There we go, dog travel. And we're just going to search the term and see what comes up. So the first thing we get is this interest over time. So we can see like when it's peaking and when it drops off. So what I like to do is zoom out a bit, and I zoom out to the past 90 days. Because again, we're not trying to break the news. We're just trying to like add something to the conversation. And then we can scroll down. It has all this stuff about subregions. I don't really care. What I care more about is related queries. So this is where I can go and like search through to see if I can find different queries that are relevant. So let's say, I don't know who this Kirk Herbstite is, so I'm not sure who that is, but let's just say safest way to travel with dogs in a car. What you can see here is when it peaks. And a lot of times these can be short peaks, but sometimes they're not. So again, this can lead to like really good long-term traffic. So this is just one example. It looks like it like massively peaked for one day and then died off. I don't know what happened that day, but then you can see as well, we have related topics here. And so what I do, I'll just click through and I just kind of start wandering through this. Basically, I call it like my ADHD side quest, where I'm just clicking to see what comes up and what interests me. The other thing I can do is if I'm pretty sure that there's something available, I could do cruise dog, I guess. Probably should have dog cruise, but still. So I search that to see what's happening around that term, if I have an idea. So here we can see it was kind of like mid over the rest of the year, and then they announced this cruise and it took off. But you can also see it's still higher than it was before. So search interest is still staying high. And so that means this is something that's probably worth writing on. If I scroll down to the related queries, that's where I can find what would be more so our keyword for this. Because with like dog-friendly cruise, I don't actually know whether dog-friendly cruise or this like Margaritaville at sea is the term that people are more likely looking for. So I want to look at these. And basically what I'm seeing is that while we have dog-friendly cruise does matter, it's specifically this Margaritaville at sea dog cruise, which has dog-friendly cruise partially in it. So we would be pretty good to include that. So there we go. Now I have my keyword. And so if we open it up, you can see again that we'll see just the traffic for here. So Now that I know that, now that I've like opened up some of these original articles, I'm going to read through these and learn about it. Like apparently there's pet butlers, but I don't know what that means. So I'm going to want to go in and read about this to be like, okay, is this actually like got butlers? I don't know. So I'm going to go through. What I can see immediately is we also have like something about the other ones that have existed before, the Queen Mary. We have here's like a quote from someone else. So I would basically open all of these links to learn as much as I can about this. I would also definitely go to the original, which here is this Cruise Tales booking site. Oh, it seems like that is a broken link. Whoops. But so I would try to find the original press release about this. I would also try to find anyone who's like been on cruises. We can go through other sources as well. And again, try to find some different ones. So it looks like that one, nope, it links to itself. This is the problem sometimes with these news sources is their linking is not good. So we can, oops, no, it's going to be mad at me because I've clicked too many times now. But we would just scroll through and start reading more about this to try to understand what's actually happening with this article. And then I would go back actually to Facebook or social media. So you can get a lot of insights from the comments on posts about this. So you can have people talk about like, have they been on a Margaritaville cruise before? Have they taken their dog anywhere? Is this something they're excited about? Are they annoyed about it? I found when Bark Air launched, I thought people were going to be like super excited that this thing existed. They weren't. They were like, oh my God, it's so expensive, which like fair, but it also has doggy champagne when your dog gets on board. So I'm like, it's bougie. It's meant to be bougie. So with this, I want to start understanding what's the vibe? What do people like about this? What do they dislike? What can I really like make my article centered around? And what are people struggling to understand? What are the common questions that keep coming up? So I've blurred out the names of people because I don't have their consent to share their random post on Facebook here. So I'm not going to click through the comments publicly right now because I want to protect the people who I don't know in this group. But essentially, I would just open this up. There's 118 comments, so I could scroll through all of those. And that can give me a lot of ideas. Now, I'm not like the most organized girly. So what I would do is pull out all of those ideas into a Google Note or just like an Apple Note or a Google Doc or anything, whatever you want. And I just like make a list of all the potential ideas I have. And then that really helps me start to see like what are the common things people are worried about. But let's say you're still struggling. You're like, Nina, okay, I get it. I figured out like something to talk about, but I still don't know the angle. I don't know what new to add to it. Well, that's where our best friend ChatGPT comes in. So I just did up like a quick prompt here. The specific prompt, there are certain elements that matter, but the exact wording doesn't matter. I always start with, hey, ChatGPT, because I'm Canadian and I need to speak to the robots nicely in case they ever rise up, and I will apologize to them regularly. So I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm a cruise blogger. So that way it knows my niche. It knows like who I'm talking to. We're talking to people who are cruisers. That's what we're focused on. And then I say there's a new dog-friendly cruise launching. So I've told it what the news is. What are some trending topic blog post angles I can cover that are unique? So we want to make sure that it understands this is going to be a blog post. We want angles for the post and we want them to be unique. We want them to be something new. Because I find what happens next is when you add the URL, it'll start trying to just like read those articles, then synthesize it back to you. We don't want that. We want something new. So then I give it the article, and I always try to only give it like news source articles because I feel a bit weird about like giving it someone's article who may not have consented to it. But with news, I'm like, you know what? They make a bajillion dollars. We're good. So then down here, we have, here are some unique blog post angles that you could cover. And then it gives me 10 different ideas. So we have a bunch of different options here. And you'll notice that not all of them are specifically about this cruise. So let's say if I did want it to be about the Margaritaville specifically, I would have had to say that very clearly in the intro. Because what I had said was my audience are focused on cruising. I didn't say my audience are focused on dog cruising, that my audience all have large dogs. I didn't add that. But if I wanted to, I could come down here and say, make these specific to an audience who travel with large dogs. And it'll adjust them. So I wanted to give you an example of how it's going to shift depending on who your audience specifically is. To go back to our point number one about know who we're talking to, because just talking about like random packing stuff might not matter if we aren't being specific to our audience. So this is a great way to get some like rough ideas. Now, I don't use their specific subject lines. I don't think that they're kind of BuzzFeedy to me, and I don't love them. I think they're a bit long too. But this is just us getting topics. So we have like, our cruise is the future of large dog travel. I think that's actually kind of a good one because with large dogs, usually you have to check them under the plane. And people don't love that. Very much up to you, no judgments here, but just that's kind of a common sentiment. But we do have some other ones as well. We have cruising with conscience, so like why it matters to be inclusive of pet owners for these for cruises. We have like specifically highlighting all the ports of call, so I would need to go find out what those actually are, which would mean again original sources. I think this is a really cool comparative one to think about is like the cost of taking your dog on a cruise versus boarding your dog. So like which one would be better? Is it actually maybe like harder on them emotionally and like mentally to be on a cruise versus boarding? This is the one I'd probably go with immediately. And what I would do is then go and speak to some vets and be like, hey, or even like I think there's doggy psychologists and psychiatrists now. We once had like a doggy psychic come into my house because my dad's insane and like wanted to figure out why one of my dogs kept eating out of things like it like through walls and stuff like that. Turns out just wanted to get to food basically. So I don't know that I would pay for that again, but I do think it's really important to get those sources then and be able to like add something new to the conversation. The articles that I've largely seen around this, it was really funny when it first started going viral. The amount of cruisers who were like worried about allergens of having dogs on cruises, like not a perspective I would have thought of. The amount of cruisers who were like, I'm going to be forced to have a dog like licking me at the table. And I was like, whoa, calm down, lady. Like, isn't that great? I'd love that. But I think like having it from a perspective of like why this could be a bad thing or where dogs would be allowed and things like that. So that's why we want to listen to those people. The other articles I've seen around this, because I've been tracking it, and I've seen a few people trend. I know somebody who has made $1,000 on their cruise blog talking exactly about this. Now that took them 4 articles. So they had one on like announcing this. They had one about like what people are worried about. They had one about, I think it was like not quite all the dog friendly cruises, but like different ways dogs could go on boats, like ferries and stuff as well, because there aren't that many cruises. And the last one was like what to pack for your dog. So those are 4 articles, some of which we saw here, that are like real life examples of someone that I actually taught this strategy to who was like, oh, hey, let's go for it. And the thing that really helped was getting social clicks. Now, the fun part of this is that their site was actually hit by the HCU and they have had no recoveries from it. Guess what? This article still is going viral on Google, even though other stuff isn't ranking from them yet. So that's a really cool thing is that this is kind of almost algorithm proof because you're able to get into it without, like, as long as you're indexed on Google. If you've been like completely blacklisted, this won't help. But as long as you're able to be visible anywhere, this really doesn't have competitors. And it's not something that businesses are going to fight you for because like they're going to publish months later. Just like with TikTok trends, they're always like 3 months late to the party. But also, we're going to be able to basically like capture our audience at something that's trending and show them that we are on the pulse. So I love this method. Okay, let me go back to present. Okay, there we go. So I have a challenge for you, and so does Theo, that I want you to try to write one of these. So I want this week for you to follow these 7 steps and let me know how it goes. And then if you tag me at Nina Clapperton on literally every social, or if you tag like at She Knows SEO on Facebook, I will be one of your clicks. I'm going to be monitoring this week. I will go through, I will click to your post. In fact, I will click to it every day this week. If you send it to me tomorrow, you'll get 7 clicks from me, I promise. And remember, they're not all going to be winners. This took me a while to get into. It's really funny, actually. My very first article that ever took off for my old travel blog was one of these. And it was kind of an accident because it was about leaving the US and it happened to coincide with the US election. And I will say, I did it again on this US election and it worked again. So always be like thinking about these things. But I've also done other ones that like just didn't take off. Maybe they did well for the newsletter or for Facebook, but maybe they just didn't take off elsewhere. So it's okay if they don't work fully, but we still want to try. And now I want to ask you, what if you could see results like this consistently with your blog? Because I showed you some good peaks, but like, let's be real. $1,000 every couple months is not enough to live off of, especially, I don't know what grocery prices are like in Montreal right now, but in Ontario, they are rough. So we can either do this the hard way. We can have 5 years of hard work with no income to show from it. Definitely did that over here. We can jump from TikTok to Pinterest to SEO to Instagram and back every 5 seconds. We could wait 6 months for a single post to rank on Google. We could spend over $12,000 on courses and see no results because, like, yep, I did that, was a waste of money. Or we can spend all of our time at webinars and summits like this and never actually have time to work on your blog. Or you could take my 6 months to 50K sessions masterclass, which is my exact method to grow a site to 50K sessions in 6 months and start being able to batch your work more productively. Month 0 also includes full site setup. And because I know people are going to ask, does SEO still work? Is SEO dead? What about the HCU? Blah, blah, blah. I had a student message me just a week ago that they just got into Mediavine and they've been in this course for 7 months and started with a completely new site. I've also had students that completely recouped a site with it, although I will say this is not an HCU recovery. That's not a thing. But this goes through how to set up your site, how to start finding keywords, how to write blog posts, and how to audit your site to keep improving. And just for you guys, you can get 50% off because of Stay22. So use coupon code Stay22. If you scroll to the bottom, it's going to auto apply either if you scan the QR code or if you go to sheknowseo.co/Stay22 deal. And this is live till the end of December. My little Christmas gift to you guys. So what's inside? Here you can see we go month 0 setting up. Month 1 is defining your niche and doing an audit of any existing content. Then we research keywords, we write posts, we get backlinks, and we do backlinks in like a non-intensive way. It's not going to be your full-time job. We're going to do intentional internal linking, and then I'll teach you my like famous 0 to hero keyword strategy that really is an amazing way to grow traffic quickly. And then you'll also get 2 blog audits that I did for past students, so you can see like problems I can find on sites in real time. And you'll get some implementation bonuses. So I give tutorials on like all the tools I use. I love checklists. Everything has like a private podcast feed. There's workbooks. There's so many things. And I'm not going to read all of these because honestly, my throat's getting sore, but you can see all of these past testimonials from students, and these are on the sales page as well. And today you can get it for, it's actually $148.50, but I couldn't figure out how to make 50 cents fit on this because Canva hates me. So you can get it for $148.50. And then thank you so much for having me, everybody. If you want to know more from me, you can find me at sheknowseo.co, where I also have a weekly newsletter, or at sheknowseo on YouTube, or at Nina Clapperton, everywhere else. And I have a free Facebook group, my SEO for Travel Bloggers group, that you can join. And again, the 6 months to 50K masterclass.
Wow. Thank you. That's a round of applause. You are a tremendous speaker, Nina. Right
Thank
on the dot too, by the way. 12:45, bank right on the dot.
you.
Yeah, thank you for your passion. Thank you for the live demo. That was really, really great to have. And I can hear the sincerity in your voice. Like it's very, very cool to have you here today. We'll jump into some questions. There's some hands raised in the chat. So I'll call on Beta right now. Fire away if you still have a question.
I think she might still be muted. I'm not sure if, I know I had to like get you to unmute me, so I'm not sure if she'll be allowed to unmute herself.
I am asking to unmute.
Perfect.
No. Okie dokie. We will try Irene.
I see one that was pre-typed, so I'm going to answer that while we try and figure it out. So we have, how many hours on average do you spend on research with this method? Honestly, like I don't go in and do like, I'm not hunting for these. I let a lot of them come to me because like I'll be scrolling through TikTok, something comes up, I bookmark it to look at later. Same for, Jesus, my voice is going. Same for Facebook and things like that. If something comes up, I have like a saved folder that I call like trending ideas that I save them to, and then I'll analyze later. I'd say like, what I like to do is with batch methods is I give myself a time crunch for it. So I'd be like, okay, Nina, you have an hour. You're just going to see what you find. But typically, I would never spend that long. I'd say 30 minutes twice a month, maybe is kind of what I would do if I was intentionally doing this. Ultimately, Facebook groups are going to be really easy ways to start finding things. News sources, you'll find it pretty quickly. And usually they feature things that are going to be like Facebook, the algorithm basically works so that if people comment on it more in the group, it goes to the top. Same for news sites. So if you just look at the featured stories, you'll usually find something pretty easily that way. And now that ChatGPT also like integrates with Bing in real time, you can also ask it to go and find them for you. Always verify them because sometimes it does like mix stuff up or like it'll like tell you a news story from 2 months ago. So give it a lot of parameters. But yeah, I do not let this take like way too long. And then Google Trends, do you look for a certain minimum for related queries? No. So really a lot of this is just vibes, which is kind of like, I know that's scary. I know that like for a lot of SEO things, it's very prescriptive and that you like, it feels safe to be like, oh, well, it definitely has this green score on key search. I break all of those SEO rules. I'm not one of those SEOs who's like, we only do easy things and we ignore our audience. Like I write for hard keywords all the time. I'm currently ranking #1 for like how to make images with ChatGPT. An article that I wrote as a trending topic took 6 months and now it's trending. And I don't think it's the best article. So I didn't look for minimum related keywords. I just went like, hey, you know what? This is something my audience should know about. This is something I care about. I did this also, I've done this on TikTok as well. Like Theo, again, my dog is my personality. He got 575K, I think, views like very quickly because I took that girl math trend and I put my glasses on him and made it dog math. And it started like a whole dog math movement. Now, two different companies do dog math for their advertisements, which I think is really funny. And so like a lot of it's just vibes. You see what you like, you see what works with like your style, and you just test. So I know that is frustrating that like I'm not giving this is exactly the number, but that's kind of the cool thing is that there's no number. And it means that no one can just like exactly replicate your stuff. So it's also a really good, like unique, this is my voice method. And then she also asked, unsure if breakout sessions is better than a 450% increase, etc. Again, vibe check. So how often are you seeing it? Is this something that you know is trending? I've had things trend that I didn't expect. I've had things that like, yeah, it said 10%, but then later it became a breakout. Breakout just means that like there was a big jump very quickly. It doesn't mean it's sustained. So sometimes it doesn't like last for very long. Other times it's better because it does last for long. So again, I more look at like what this means to my audience overall and if I think this is going to be like incredibly helpful for them. So I never let the analytics like guide me as much as I let my audience guide me, if that makes sense. And you can always like as well with ChatGPT, I use it like the way I don't bother my VA all the time because I am the world's most indecisive person. Like I have no ability to make a choice at all. My service dog, one of his tasks is to help me decide where to eat for dinner because I'm incapable of it. So what I will do is I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, here are 3 things I'm thinking of doing for my audience. Which matters most to them? Or which, based on like traffic and trends and other things you're seeing online, would be best? Ask it. And then if you're like, in your heart of hearts, you're like, no, actually, I want to do this one, do that one instead. Doesn't matter, vibe it out. Ariane or Ariane, I don't know how to pronounce your name, I'm so sorry, says, how frequently do you post on your site? I am so not consistent. So with She Knows SEO in like April, I did, I think like 35 posts in a month. Usually I do one post every 2 months. And that site like consistently gets 35,000 to 50,000 page views a month with like no new content and I'm not really linking to it. So it kind of keeps just working. With this, I'm giving it like a little burst or infusion. And the great thing too with this trending topics is usually it's such a new thing that you're ranking #1. Like that's how we're getting this traffic is it's not that we're getting discover, it's not anything else. We're going to rank #1 because there isn't another article, or we're at least ranking on the page 1 because again, there aren't other articles. And so I'm able to often stay ranking there, even if there wasn't a ton of traffic to it, like long term. So it is beneficial to like the overall ranking structure of your site. And that really improves your site health as well. So that's kind of helped with the topical authority, like buoying up some of my old posts that, again, I'm not publishing super regularly, but I'm able to move things around that way. And then like just having kind of a healthy structure with your site where people want to come back. Because I get like my site has she knows SEO has the most return visits of any of my sites, but that's something I really focus on is like getting people to come back with all of my sites. And okay, I know Faiza I met and you told me how to pronounce your name before, and I'm so sorry, I do not remember how to actually pronounce your name. She asked, "Are you using Pinterest marketing to drive traffic?" No. I just hired someone to do my Pinterest. I hate Pinterest with a passion because I am not fused. Thank you. Because I'm not a visual person. Like I don't think in pictures, I think in words. So anything visual, I'm so bad at. You'll notice that with like all my graphics. It's like, Nina, it's kind of ugly. Yeah, it's because I'm bad at it, fully bad at it. So Pinterest makes no sense to me. So the SEO side, I get it. I can understand it. I'm not still doing Pinterest because I just don't bother. So I've outsourced that now. But we're going to start in the new year. So outsource. It's not there yet. Penelope asks, how many articles do you usually share per trending topic? What's your minimum? Minimum's one. So usually I start with one, and again, I feel it out. So some topics like the Google algo leak, I wanted a one and done because the main pain point for my audience is that like they're busy. So I know all of you guys, you're busy. That's why like this whole like session, I would sit here and yap and tell you stories for like 5,000 years. I talk about Theo, I tell you the history of all those photos. I go on ADHD side quests, like we do all the different things. But I know you're busy, so I want to get to the point for you. So that's why for that one post that summarizes all of it was the most important thing. Whereas for other stuff, like for this dog cruise, there's different angles. So it really depends on how many angles are relevant to my audience and what I'm feeling. It also depends on if I see enough traction. If this is going to be like the Notebook LM one I did, it got, I think, 1,000 clicks a day for about 3 days, and then it dropped off. It still ranks, I think, 1 to 3, depending on what country you're in. So it still gets good traffic. It's still getting some searches, but like, it's not trending anymore. So there's just not as much volume being searched there. So like in my Google Search Console, it's like impressions and clicks go up, and then they both just go like, nope, we're done now. And then they go back down to normal. So for me, for that one, it wouldn't have been worth it to write a bunch of new ones because the trend had kind of died. And there weren't really other keywords that would be relevant to my audience. For the ChatGPT image one, if I'd been paying more attention when it first started to like kick off late, then I would have done like maybe some specifically on different types of images people would want, like how to make infographics and then this and then that. So that's how I would structure that. And then Penelope also asks, do you recommend monetizing these articles in any way beyond ads on your site, or is it completely dependent on the topic? It depends on what makes sense. So with Stay22, you're monetizing like all of your articles, hopefully, because you're adding in opportunities for hotels somewhere. Because with travel, that's really an easy thing to add in. And now that they have Get Your Guide, and I know that others are coming soon, that you're going to have options for tours as well, which is really great. So as long as you have links somewhere, those will kind of auto monetize. Now, with this article, honestly, it was one of those ones where I was just like trying to synthesize 14,000 things at once. So I could have done a better job of monetizing it for sure. I think ads are the easiest way to monetize, but if I'd been intentional about affiliates, if I'd been intentional, pardon me, about putting in one of my products, it would have been a great way to make a lot more money off of that. So those are 3 options. Now you can also like think of it from a long-term perspective of getting people to like follow you on Instagram. If this is the Penelope I'm thinking of, I know your Instagram is important to you, so you should go and get people to follow you on Instagram. And then you can leverage that for sponsored campaigns later, for other events later, where you can then be like, hey, look at how big my audience is. It's kind of the same as like if a reel or a TikTok goes viral, like you might make $0 from it if you don't monetize it intentionally. But if you have intentions with it, then you're going to be able to do better. So bringing people in to like grow your community for the future is great. Yes, I thought it'd be that, Penelope, because we had talked about this earlier. But yeah, you can also like monetize in all the different ways. So if it also like is having long-term success, like that Google algo leak, I had a lot of people offer to do like they wanted to sponsor the article so that I would feature their business. Now, I didn't want to do that because I felt disingenuous doing that. So I was like, nope, my business is sponsoring it. But if you notice something is kicking off for more than 2 days, go contact relevant companies. Like I would contact other cruise agencies or a pet travel agent for dogs to partner with. I'd contact somebody that has like an ebook about dog travel if I don't, and be like, hey, could I be an affiliate for your ebook? I'd get my commission percentage. I don't need to worry about trying to make an ebook in like 2 days or something, because it's probably not going to be a good ebook then. So lots of options for monetization. Oh, Ryan, you're muted.
Thank you. As we approach the top of the hour, and I don't see any more. Oh, here's one more.
Okay, you mentioned repurposing content. What about bringing an old blog post back to light? Typically, it needs a new URL, I would say. So usually, like it would need a URL that matches the intent of the new post. That being said, I could see taking a normal dog friendly cruise like post and being able to repurpose it. I would definitely change the publish date to today. And I would like do a new like kind of social, I want to say social campaign, but I don't really know what a campaign means there because again, I'm not a social girly. So I would just share it. And I'd probably do an email like in depth focusing on that part of how it connects. The URL needs to change if like the intent is changing. So let's say it was an old article on like, are there any dog cruises? Well, now the answer is yes. So you could definitely like update it, but I think you'd still need a specific article about this dog-friendly cruise for it to really be successful. Because I think the intent is different between a yes and no answer and an in-depth understanding of what's happening with this cruise.
Sensational. Nina, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for your honesty, your passion, the sincerity, and for challenging the audience too. I thought that was really cool. And so I don't really have much more to say. Again, fantastic speaker. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you for your questions. Recording will be available. And yeah, Nina, hats off. Fantastic session. And everyone have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining.